What's going on, party people? Welcome to episode 14 of the Culture 316 podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jordan Nahisi.
And your girl Edge's throat goat Mo. What's up, people? How you doing today?
So first and foremost, we have a couple of pre-show announcements. Well, as per usual, if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you are on like, comment, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, give us a 5 stars on the podcast. A couple of pre-show announcements. If you guys are looking for a pro wrestling community that, isn't racist, sexist, homophobic, and all that, please join our Discord. The link is actually in our description. I said that last week, but I tweaked out, but it's in the description now. And the second thing is, shout outs to everybody who joined our 316 space for Halloween Havoc. It was so much fun. This is our second one, and it was just great. We always have a good time on there, chatting up, having a little bit to drink and whatnot. That reminds me, I need to go get Jack. But our third, our
Don't say
third
Jack.
316 space will probably be Crown Jewel. So if you guys want to join us and talk with us about the show, we will be there. And that kind of concludes our little pre-show announcements. Off we go into the show. First things first, did y'all see the New Day, Sasha, Trinity, and Jimmy pop out for the Black Panther 2 release party? They all looked amazing, and my heart is always warmed
Banging.
when I see them together. I just wanted to know what your impressions were of seeing those guys together at that release party.
God, I fucking love the New Day as is. They're always somewhere mainstream, but to see Sasha and Naomi added with them, it was just like, that's an amazing feeling in my chest because it's just like they're taking their sweet ass time coming back, and they're just getting their names everywhere. The New Day was always everywhere. They're
Mhm.
gonna always multitask that, but it was just like a wonderful feeling just to see them, man. Like they ate their looks down. Honestly, happy for them. Like I'm honestly really like proud for them and everything that they're doing for us. What do you think?
I was excited as well. It's just always good to see our favorite wrestlers outside the context of pro wrestling. And a lot of people forget, they're so fixated on the fact that these guys are amazing performers that they forget that they're real people. And it's just good to see good people that that are good people having a good time. Like, they were in Hollywood. It was the New Day. Jimmy was there. Obviously, Trinity, Sasha was there. Well, Trinity and Mercedes were there. Let's get their real names right. Let me get their real names right. But it's just good to see them
Yeah.
outside of a context of the ring, just having a good time. They're taking it, like you said, they're taking their sweet time, and they're just kind of going with the flow and just kind of enjoying everything as it comes along. And it's just great to see them. Like, I don't even have like a timetable for their return, but at this point, it's just like, oh, who cares? Just let them take their time, let them have fun, let them do what they want to do. You know what I mean? So I was gonna say, did
As
you
long
have
as they're
anything else?
happy, I'm happy.
Right.
That's
Heavy
it.
on that.
That's all I gotta
Heavy
say.
heavy on that. And going from that, All Elite Wrestling aired its first video package of the Elite since the All Out Fallout last night on Dynamite. The vignette featured members of the Elite fading away as if they were being erased. So how close are we to the return of the Elite?
Hmm. I feel like they would have him come back during full year because, like, again, in my personal opinion, when I look at the grand scheme of the situation, they were wrong, but they weren't that wrong. They reacted. I feel like in their position, they probably should not have, but I can understand their frustration when someone did what they did. We're not going to repeat that whole situation. Can we do it every
Right.
single week? Um, so I feel like they're definitely going to come back. But what I found even more interesting was that there was no like, not an inkling, not a single tease or anything about Punk, which has been in the reports. And Tony Khan obviously knows that we're seeing the reports about the whole buyout situation. So I feel like that's very telling,
Yeah.
because it could go either way. I know that the elite's going to come back, and they're probably going to come back sooner than later.
Right.
Um, but they're probably not going to be inserted into like a high position immediately. I mean, we got so much going on, so much to play with. But I feel like, in regards of like someone like Punk, I feel like that was pretty telling. But it could go either way. It could be something where they cock tease us with that for the rest of the year up until like what, um not All Out, Double or Nothing,
Yeah.
and have him come back. It could be something like that. Or he just doesn't come back at all, which is what I'm hoping for. What do you think?
Personally, I think that when it comes to the All Elite coming back, I think that you kind of hit the nail right on the head. It was only a matter of time because when you look at the situation and everything that has been reported, the elite the elite weren't necessarily completely in the wrong. And because of that, it's very, very hard for you to like justify like why they were out for an extended amount of time or why they would receive a heavier punishment than CM Punk would. And so based off of that, I just think that it's time for them to come back. Like you said, there is a pecking order now, which I predicted. I knew that there was going to be a pecking order um, pertaining to those guys. When I started seeing John Moxley getting his extension and Jericho getting his extension plus added responsibilities and also just like the new kind of executive pecking order with Tony and Pat Buck and all those guys that press release was released like a couple months ago. But yeah, like I just think that it's about damn time as far as how close we are to their return. Like you said, I think we can get them at Full Gear. I think if we can get them at their New Year's show. That's another prediction that I think that would be cool and suitable because I know that that's usually in Jacksonville. Um, but yeah, I see them coming back really, really soon, and I'm really, really excited about it. I think that it is very telling that CM Punk has not even been mentioned during this whole like them coming back and this, that, and the third. And plus, Brandon Cutler has been brought back full time to AEW programming, and Ace Steel just got released. So I think it's very, very clear the direction that they're trying to go in because I don't think that the company is big enough for the both of them anymore. So I think that we are going to see a return of the elite soon, and I think that sooner than that, we're probably going to see some form of release of CM Punk. So that's all that I have to say about that. Now, speaking of All Elite Wrestling, Fast Company announced that All Elite Wrestling has made its second annual Brands That Matter list. It's a list dedicated to those who communicate and demonstrate brand purpose. Editor in chief Brendan Vaughn said the following quote in this year. Um, we've expanded the Brands That Matter program to evaluate honorees in the context of how they matter within the category in which they compete for people's attention or loyalty. The result is a wide-ranging list of honorees that are making their mark on culture and through social impact. So, what does this honor symbolize for All Elite Wrestling as far as them being put on this list of brands that matter? What does it say about AEW?
I honestly do get the idea that I'm. I guess they are becoming more and more like a legitimate company, or
Mm,
or they are legitimizing wrestling. I guess with this impact, I mean, they have been doing a lot.
mm,
I'll be honest, I didn't expect this much out of AEW when like they first like came on spot, but they have had like a massive social and cultural impact. Like
mm,
when you like look at like little things and little um how do I put this? I feel like, for example, we can even like revisit what happened with like the tag team titles being an example. Like how they like to pay homage to different minority of demographics. So it doesn't really surprise me that they are being like placed in this position or having like an honor. Sorry.
you're good. You're
I
good.
had a brain fart.
You're good. You're totally fine. I
Go
agree
ahead.
with you though. I agree with you though. I think that what this symbolizes more than anything is just how dedicated all elite wrestling fans are to all elite wrestling. Like I think it's so sometimes it can be a little bit cliche when it's like, oh, they're nothing without the fans. But it's like it's really true when you think about it. Like they are nothing without their fans. And I believe that it also is an indication of all elite wrestling's uh dedication to providing an alternative for wrestling fans. And I feel like their dedication in providing something different from the normal mainstream product of WWE has definitely uh put them in a position where they are doing so many different things that other wrestling companies aren't doing. Like we talked a while ago about, you know, Swerve and Keith and the Acclaim bringing out like DJ Who Kid and Fab and all these other guys. We talk about Daniel Garcia and the relationship that he has with Griselda. And we talk about, we talk about the stuff, even the stuff that they did earlier on in the brand when Brandy Rhodes was the CBO. And she was very, 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 very keen on being very, very inclusive to like those who, had sensory
I
issues
mean,
and
done
things
it
of
in a
that nature.
very like non-forced way.
Huh? Yeah,
That's
exactly. It
what I
feels
like
very, very
about it.
natural. Feels very,
Like
very
if you didn't
natural.
mention it, I wouldn't have really noticed it, to be honest. And that's a good thing. I don't
Right.
like it when it feels like it's an agenda. I feel like every time they have introduced that stuff, it's like, oh, that's a pretty cool thing that they're doing. And it
Right.
just feels like more heartfelt and more like wholesome when they do it that way.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I agree with you. I agree with you on that. I think that yeah, damn, I just had a brain fart too. But I think that this kind of honor just kind of symbolizes the fact that AEW is dedicated to providing a different product, and that through providing a different product and targeting the people that they know, love, and want their product, they are separating themselves from the competition in so many different ways and creating a lane for themselves. And the more options for more wrestling fans, the better. Because more places for fans means more places for wrestlers to work, and we love to see wrestlers get paid. So, shout outs to All Elite Wrestling for making that honor of being on the Fast Company's brand second annual Brands That Matter. But speaking of All Elite Wrestling, some good news may be on the way for their television deal with Warner Brothers Discovery. In an interview with the Hollywood Reporter, Warner Bros. Discovery U.S. Network's Group Chair and Chief Content Officer Kathleen Finch spoke about how happy she was with All Elite Wrestling's numbers and the future of AEW. In light of that, Warner Brothers started running multiple advertisements during the MLB playoffs, and reports have started to circulate that Warner Bros. Not only wants to do business with AEW long term, but wants to present the wrestling company as a legitimate sport. How do you feel about this news, and what do you think it says about the future of All Elite Wrestling?
I do think it's good news, but isn't that what AEW set out to do in the very beginning, and
Mm-hmm.
then they became sports entertainment, and now I guess they're jumping back into that? I could have swore Cody Rhodes said something when
Yeah,
AEW first came out that I can't remember word from word, but it was the
sports
same like
centric.
I guess yes, there we
That's
go.
the
Sports
word.
centric was exactly what. Yeah. But I can't be upset with this decision because as someone that really loves wrestling and I take wrestling seriously, I actually do consider it a sport, and I would love if it was viewed, more universally as being a legitimate sport instead of just being something that is a play or a script. So I love that. I love again that wrestling is being more legitimized because um, these people are athletes. They are also actors. They are stuntmen. It's definitely a complicated sport, if you will. So I love that for them, and I love that for AEW. But it makes me question, like, are they going to switch up? I guess their ratio between how much wrestling do we see versus promos, because I felt as though when I first watched AEW, it was more about just ring work than there was about seeing segments and seeing promos and seeing characters. Like you were meant to fall in love with what you saw in the ring before you got to understand what the character was or what is exactly the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think that's going to change with that?
Personally, I don't think it's gonna change. Ooh, I think I hear my echo. You got to mute your mic. Um, but I don't think that's going to change as far as the how do I describe this? As far as how they present the product, I don't think that that's going to change one bit. Um, I think that this is kind of what they set out to do, and I think that what's going to change more so than anything is how um TNT, TBS, and Warner Networks promote the product, because there's a difference between how a product is presented and how a product is promoted. And so I think that when they say things like we're going to present this more as a sport, you have to look at their sports properties, right? They have a deal with MLB, they have a deal with the NBA, and they have like the Inside the NBA, which is a very, very known, illustrious, insightful basketball program. So when I hear, you know, rhetoric about Warner Network saying essentially we're going to treat this like a sports property. I don't think it's a matter of AEW having to change anything. I think it's how Warner changes their approach to it because it's very very easy as a network to promote a product the way that a competitor promotes. Oh wow, the way that a competitor promotes their product. Like it's very, very easy to kind of look at what USA is doing with Raw and just being like, oh, we're going to promote it like the way the USA promotes Raw. But I think that now understanding the product, they can be like, let's kind of attach more programming to this. We may see a backstage show with AEW the way that WWE was trying to do with Fox and stuff like that. So I think that this doesn't change the way that AEW presents its product. I think that it changes the way that Warner Brothers is going to promote the product. I also think this is significant because since this merger, prior to the merger and during the merger, there was a lot of uncertainty surrounding AEW because there were a lot of changes in leadership, and the leader that was on board for bringing them into the fold in the first place, I don't think is occupying that position of leadership anymore. So the fact that leadership has changed and they're still very, very big on AEW is a very, very good sign. And I think that this almost kind of guarantees the fact that they're going to get another TV deal and probably a bigger one at that, which is fantastic. I was gonna say, did you have anything else to say? Did you have anything else you wanted to say about this?
Nope, not this time.
Not as this time. All right, then we can move on. So while all this is happening pertaining to AEW, and we're saying good things about AEW, not everybody has the nicest things to say. Former WWE superstar Lana, also known as CJ Perry, had some very, very interesting comments to say about All Elite Wrestling. The president and head of creative, Tony Khan, in an appearance on Busted Open Radio, she said the following: I have a lot of opinions about this. Tony Khan has a vision. At the end of the day, if it's 100% real, I think there's this illusion at AEW that the talent booked the show. That was different. That was definitely the conversation. Oh, you go there, you basically become whatever you're made of. But at the end of the day, he's booking the show. It's really no different than WWE. It's just a different director and a different person's point of view. It's like comparing NBC to HBO, but at the end of the day, you still have the exec who is going to make the final call, and that's what it is. Tony can have his favorites, and he's going to push the favorites just like Vince McMahon would push his favorites, just like Hunter is going to push his people. It's show business, it's nothing personal, and it's just what it is. So, do you believe? I wanted to ask this question. Number one, how did you feel about Lana's comment? And do you believe that Tony Khan plays favorites the same way that Vince McMahon or Triple H would?
Honestly, as much as she irritates me, I can't disagree with her points, and I also don't think that um what she had said should be like snubbed because she was not known for being a good wrestler, but she has been um heavily around and involved with like the entertainment industry,
Mm-hmm.
like with movies and stuff like that, and being a performer and being a dancer and stuff like that. So I do feel like to a degree she does kind of know what she's talking about when it comes to entertainment. And this is something that I even noticed when I watched AEW and WWE, because I feel like we all kind of had that same thought that you go to AEW and you get to be all around your friends and you have control of your destiny, your character, your booking. You know what I mean? Everyone that
Yeah.
goes there is destined to have a greater and brighter future than what they got out of WWE. And she's kind of right, because I mean, a lot of the fallouts and a lot of the arguments we've been seeing and the drama going on backstage and stuff like that is a product of a lot of favoritism. Because certain faces are being pushed and still being kept around and are being treated with a light slap on the wrist for
Right.
some things that they do as opposed to what other people do, and that all comes with favoritism. And it doesn't matter what wrestling company it is. We've
Mm.
seen this with multiple wrestling companies across the board, whether they're on TV, it's something you got to pay for a subscription to watch, or they're like, the lower tier indie shows or something. Like, that is unfortunately show business. They're gonna push who they want to push. They're gonna keep around who they want to keep. And if you're just not it for them in the promoter's eyes or the owner's eyes, like, that's unfortunately how it is. You do get snubbed. So
Mhm.
I don't think she said anything that was incorrect, and I feel like if you are gonna say she said anything that was incorrect, it's probably because you just don't like Lana, which I don't like her either. But I mean, she hit the head on the nail because like, look at the fuckery that's going on. Hell, since we're on here and we're on this topic, I find it really weird that in regards of like the whole elite and punk situation for their behaviors, yes, I understood it got to the extent of getting physical, but they got punished, and everyone is universally shaming both parties in that situation for not being professional. Throughout the whole entire week, I'm looking on the internet, and I still see Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker still going at it, and I
Yep.
haven't quite seen like a legitimate punishment for that.
Right.
Thunder Rosa's over here supposed to be nursing a freaking injury, and Britt Baker, who's someone who's kind of the female equivalent of where the elite was. I mean, let's be honest. She's definitely someone that Tony favors. Um, you can see that reflected in how long she's held the title, how she's interjected in every fucking female's feud, no matter who it is.
Right.
And what she's doing is not very professional. You would probably think she would think twice considering what had happened. That let's not pull more attention away from what goes on screen by throwing in bullshit and bringing up old shit. Especially again, if you were a champion, you should hold yourself still like a champion, whether you got the belt on ma or not. Like you're someone that Tony Khan brings around, like even off screen to media events and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
you're a doctor for crying out loud. I would just think that she would just kind of hold herself with some type of prestige ma, and it's just irritating to me because it just seems like there's some weird double standard, and it does come with the favoritism. And she probably does feel like she got a chip on her shoulder because she knows that Tony Khan likes her,
Mm.
like favors her. I'm not saying that there's some weird relationship going on, but I'm saying like that also plays a role with favoritism
Right.
because I'm pretty sure if someone else did that, again, they wouldn't get like a little whack on the wrist or nothing. They would be punished more heavily. So sorry, I went on a little side rant.
You're good.
By the way, both ladies are wrong for entertaining this shit. It's just I just find it weird where when this man picks and chooses when he wants to give punishments because again it falls underneath what she's saying. It's all favoritism.
Right.
What do
I
you think about that and that situation? So that's three questions in one.
So here's my thing about the Lana thing. I think that she's right. I don't have a problem with executives having favorites as long as the favorites make business sense. As long as your favorites are producing results. I think that when you start to prioritize your personal relationships over business, that's when it becomes toxic. To the point where it's like this guy is clearly not a draw. Why is he here? This girl is clearly not a draw. Why is she here? It's like, but if the girl is bringing in the top merch sales, if everybody is doing her chant, if everybody is coming to see her, if she's a top grossing talent or he's a top grossing talent, then to me, it's like there's no issue because it's like, okay, that's your favorite, but your favorite is bringing in results. And I think that that's what it's all comes down to at the end of the day. It's about being a draw. So I don't necessarily have a problem with people having favorites. Now, the funny thing about the Britt Baker thing is I have the exact quote, which I think this is she said this on the Swerve City podcast. That's the reason I was like on my phone when you was doing it because I was trying to look up the exact quote. So this is what she said on the
Go ahead.
Swerve City podcast, according to WrestleTalk.com. I'm putting this out there because I want to make sure that I get my sources correct. So Britt Baker said, and I think that Swerve was speaking to her about, you know, Baker making the point that she had not missed any televised appearances due to having injuries. So Britt said that I never missed any episodes of TV with like broken bone and injury. I'm just saying, what bone have I not broken at this point? My leg, my nose twice now, my wrist, the concussion, and I was at work every week because that is where I wanted to be. I had my nose surgery on Monday, Dynamite was on a Wednesday, and I was there cutting a promo because I wanted to be. Tony Khan is the most caring and wonderful guy, but I was like, this is an opportunity. I'm going to have a black eye. I'm sick in the head and thought I'm going to look cool. End of quote. And I think that she continued when she was talking about Rosa, and we're not gonna talk about that because it's off topic. But I think that the point that she was trying to make was like, Ayo, look, like Thunder is MIA and her excuses or like her reason is that she has an injury. But when I had an injury, I was on TV every week, which is an understandable complaint. But you got to understand that Britt Baker has strengths that Thunder Rosa does not have. Like, I don't know, being on a mic. You know what I'm saying? Like, she has other valuable things that she can do outside of her in-ring work that would be of value to a program. So that if she were to show up for TV, like, she would definitely be on because she doesn't necessarily have to be wrestling. Um, but I do kind of see like your point as far as like the comment and how, you know, bringing that kind of topic back and kind of throwing that shade on someone who is the women's champion because Tony Storm is considered the interim women's champion at the moment. Thunder Rosa is the champion, and it's known that they have very well documented issues. Do I think it's professional? Unprofessional? Absolutely. Do I think that she should be receiving a punishment? I don't know, because if you remember, Eddie Kingston had an interview, and he was talking about Sammy, and he was talking about the Bucks, and he was saying, "Oh, I don't like Sammy. I don't like Sammy," but he didn't get a punishment for it. It was only he when they actually got into like that backstage altercation where he like received a punishment for it. So I don't think that it's like a favorites thing as far as how punishments are being handed out. However, I do believe that Britt Baker is one of Tony Khan's favorites. Like regardless of it all, I still think that Tony Khan favors her. Um so that's like a little bit like of my opinion on that. I don't have a problem with people having their favorites as long as it makes dollars. Like if bro is not a draw, if sis is not a draw, I don't care how much you like him, you need to pull him and develop them and make sure that they get better in the ring or on the mic. And as far as Britt Baker is concerned, is she one of Tony Khan's favorites? Absolutely. Um, I don't think that she is going to get punished because I don't think that really anybody has been punished for like a on-air remark like that. I think the only exception was when Sammy was on a podcast talking about the R word, but that's a completely different thing, you know what I'm saying? So, that's just like my opinions on the whole thing. So, yeah, I was gonna say, did you have anything else you wanted to say about that?
I mean, I completely agree that yeah, Britt Baker is like the better, not like in ring worker, but just overall what she has to give. Yes, it is valuable, and I do entirely agree with your point about how, yes, like a promoter is going to operate off of who's going to make me more money. If you're going to make me more money, then I'm going to put you on more because that just makes the most sense. Totally get
Mhm.
that. I just think that it's odd because again, the women's division is still, in my personal opinion, in shambles, and I just think that it's almost offensive to just sit here and watch that more of our attention has been placed in what goes on off screen with the women
Mhm.
than the stuff that goes on screen with the women. And it's just like if I was a female wrestler, and I understand Britt's she's considered at the top of the food chain and stuff like that, so maybe she feels unbothered by it. I feel like it negatively impacts the rest of the division because it's just like people already kind of don't care to watch the woman as it is,
Right.
and I just feel like instead of saving all that energy and focusing on throwing shade at one person who's not on screen, she's not traveling with you guys, she's at home dealing with her herniated disc. Why can't we bring more positive to the division and actually like work on strengthening things and creating better storylines and putting other people over and stuff like that? I don't know. I just to me it doesn't help build the company.
Right.
I feel like to me it's at least for like the women's division, the way that I look at it is that we watch the show week by week. I don't think anyone cares. I don't see really anyone tweeting or commenting much about the women. Um and it just comes off to me very selfish of her to be in her position to utilize her time knowing that yeah, she is interjected into everyone's feud and stuff like that, and is so far not really benefiting anyone. It's not really giving anyone much of a rub, and that no one seems to care for that because they're more invested in this beef that we should have forgotten about by now because this has
Mhm.
been ongoing for like what, 2 months. She could be investing that into something else. Like I just feel like a lot of the wrestlers in general should have learned from that media scrum situation to just leave their beefs like in private. If they want to run their mouths in private, by all means go run their mouths in private. But I just feel like getting on podcasts and getting on shows and putting down coworkers. It's just so unnecessary for business. It
Mm,
makes them it's I understand Tony Khan's working really hard on trying to work out, the the individual beefs that are going on in the show, because adults do act like children, but I just feel like
so
everyone's
funny.
still off the hinges, and everyone should there are off the hinges, and I do feel like people should again had taken that experience and think to myself, all right, I don't want to do that next because I
Yeah.
watched how that badly hurt the company and how much harder my boss have to work to make to make the company look better. So I don't know. To me, like that, I just thought it was just disrespectful. Like not just directly towards Thunder Rosa, because she's entitled to feel that way towards her. It's just that why are you doing this publicly? Like what was the gain for it? Like
Mm,
what are you trying to get out and communicate to us
right.
as fans by
And that
getting on Swerve show? Sorry,
I said no. That makes
go
complete
ahead.
sense. Keep going. No, no, no.
No, it's just I know I'm going off on it for a long time. It's just that this when I sat there and looked at it, it's just like in her head, you could see the wheels turning that she feel like she won some competition. I'm like, you're not winning at the end of the day, even if you guys if you do have good points about
Mm,
how you did work with a bad injury and you have all these assets, because at the end of the day, you guys are a unit. Like you guys are a unit. You should be working and putting all your energy into like building up your unit. I feel like all you females should be banding together and trying to outdo the boys or try to get the boss's attention to try to get more screen time, better storylines, you know what I mean? Make the title seem more important. Like why is your energy being displaced here? Is it because you know that you're set and you're ready to
mm,
go and that he already put all his eggs in one basket with you, so it's just like fuck everybody else, you know what I mean? I'm in the driver's seat. I'm good regardless, you know what I mean? Fuck these other bitches. That's just the vibe I get from her, and that's what irritates me. And then what also makes me think to myself is like, damn, this personality is with Adam Cole. I would love to know what's his take on this because she hasn't shut the fuck up yet. Like, does he just mind his own business and just go back into the gaming room, and just like play on his computer and shit and just tune her out? Like, he's so humble. He's so humble, and he is definitely someone who cares for not only like yes, getting himself booked correctly, sure, because he's like one of the greatest of all time, but like he loves putting over other people and he loves doing what's best for business and best for wrestling. It's just so weird to see opposing personalities of someone so catty with someone that's so humble put together.
mm,
Like, yeah, you haven't thought about sitting her down once and be like, like, girl, I understand you feel this way, but like, y'all can handle this on the side. Like,
mm,
take your position right now since you're basically me, right? Because Britt Baker is almost like the Adam Cole in the fucking division. Like, she is that it girl. She is the it girl the same way Adam Cole was the it guy in NXT. It's like, you have all this power, use it for good. Use it for good. That's just what I gotta say about it. I'm sorry I've been going on a bad rant, and I'm trying to actually be nicer about it. Cause I was gonna be rude. I was. I plan on getting nasty on here. But I want to give a more objective point than I want to get more just a subjective.
right.
So, do you have anything
Me
else you want to add, or should I conclude my rant on Britt Baker?
concluded because I don't got nothing else to say.
Okay.
Honestly,
Okay.
I was gonna say. I mean, if you didn't have anything else to say, I think we can move. We can move on. So, speaking of
Go right
unprofessional,
ahead.
speaking of business, the current never open weight champion, Carl Anderson, has been caught in the middle of a dispute with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I don't even want to say it's unprofessional. I don't know all the details. Let me stop that. The Japan based wrestling conglomerate released a statement saying that it has failed to reach an agreement with Carl Anderson on on an agreement that would allow him to appear in Osaka to defend his championship against Hikuleo on November 5th in Osaka, which is the same day as WWE's premium live event Crown Jewel. So I think my question to you is like, how should New Japan Pro Wrestling respond in light of the absence and failed negotiations with Carl Anderson?
I'm sorry. Do we have any other further details in regards of this dispute so I could have a full understanding what happened?
So essentially, all right, going back to the beginning, I guess the beginning. Before the OC appeared on Monday Night Raw, Luke Gallows or Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson were signed to New Japan Pro Wrestling. While being signed to New Japan Pro Wrestling, it was said that Carl Anderson had a match against Hikuleu, for the never open weight championship because Carl Anderson, before he was with WWE, became the never open weight championship. He then goes to WWE. When they actually make the appearance in Brooklyn, they did not have a long-term deal in place yet. It was just an appearance. They then signed contracts. After they had signed contracts, they kept advertising this match between Carl Anderson and Hikuleu. And then next thing you know, we get this bomb saying that the OC is facing Judgment Day at Crown Jewel on November 5th. The event in Osaka and the event in Saudi Arabia are on the same day. After that, there was a video that was released with Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows essentially saying, "Hey man, listen, I'm not showing up uh on November 5th." This is Carl Anderson essentially saying it, and it was like Gallows was like, "Listen, if you got any business with Carl Anderson, you got to go through me." And but yeah, essentially their whole thing was, "We're not showing up. And if you want to negotiate, then you got to go through Gallows to get through Anderson." They tried reaching out to Carl Anderson multiple times. They failed to get a hold of him and negotiate some form of agreement that would allow him to work both events on the same day. However, in my opinion, I don't think Carl wants to work both events on the same day. But yeah, that's kind of what's been happening. So now, what do you think that and Carl Anderson said that he's not going to vacate the title. And that's what the statement that New Japan released in response to Carl Anderson said that if he was not going to show up, that Carl Anderson had to relinquish the never open weight title and bring it back to New Japan Pro Wrestling immediately. So yeah, with all that, how do you think
No, thank
that?
you for that preface, 'cause I needed that.
No problem.
I definitely
Nope.
needed that.
So now, like with all that given, how do you think that New Japan should respond?
Yeah, if they want to go about this in like the least the least climatic way, I would definitely like force him to vacate the title because that was a pretty shitty move. If that's in fact what did happen, I definitely would just snatch that shit from underneath his waist because why would you do that? You know, that's something that should have been professionally communicated that you can't do this or you just did not want to do this. It's kind of a shame because I feel like that would have been a pretty good bridge for WWE and New Japan. You know, I think a lot of fans have been looking forward to that, so we can see more faces being bought in because we know, of course, that Triple H loves Japanese wrestling. He definitely appreciates those wrestlers over there, and I feel as though like again, like this could have been a really good like business move that he kind of just sabotaged on his own. We don't know the exact reason, and it's coming off from the way you worded it that he just didn't want to do it, or he
Mm,
didn't want to be in two places at once, or he just preferred to stay where he's at. But it's just like, why would you want to blow an opportunity like that? To me,
mm,
I'm very much like dumbfounded. So if I were them, yeah, I would definitely vacate it. Why you got to operate on their time like you need them? Like
right,
they're fine without you. This is like if anything, it would have been like a mutual business favor.
right.
So I don't understand why he would want to, especially knowing that he has history with the company. It should have made it that much easier to communicate that there was going to be a change in plans and that you just wanted to withdraw from this or you didn't want to um partake in the event. So you're saying that they are set up now with Judgment Day.
Hmm.
Like that's his decision he just wanted to make.
I mean,
Yeah.
it looks like it. It looks like he's. I mean, if you're telling cats like, "Oh, I'm not going to be there," I think he's going to go to Saudi Arabia and be in that match between the Judgment Day and the OC. But to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, I do believe it. This is a shame because this could have been a wonderful bridge for WWE and New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think that this was
Mhm.
something that they could reach an agreement over and possibly have New Japan and WWE work together because like Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson as currently advertised are part of the Bullet Club. You know what I mean? And I think that that's something that WWE has wanted access to from an intellectual property standpoint for years. They've wanted to claim Bullet Club, feature Bullet Club on their programming in a legitimate way for years. And I think that this would have been a great bridge to kind of allow that to happen. Um, but yeah, I think that New Japan should find a way. I mean, if Carl Anderson is not going to return the belt, and this is going to be a very very controversial take. If Carl Anderson is not going to vacate the title, he's not going to give the belt, which means that he's not going to be in Osaka. He's not going to defend the belt. I think that they should just find a way to do business. Like, it sounds crazy, and I'm not denying the fact that Carl Anderson is moving funny, but I think it's like you don't have the belt. Carl Anderson has the belt, which means that he like in the minds of the typical wrestling fan, Carl Anderson is the champion. And as long as you try to create another version of that championship and like have two people fight for the vacated version of it, people aren't going to deem it as legitimate. And it's always going to be the elephant in the room until Carl Anderson makes an appearance and says, "Oh, we need to, settle this, and I'm the real champion," and da 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 da
Oh,
da.
were they able to, like fix that at Impact when Tessa fucking ran off with the belt in Mexico
Very,
and
very
they need
true.
another
But
belt
it was
since
it
she.
was one of those things where like Tessa already had number one, Tessa already had a bad reputation. Number two, they had other people, other legitimate stars who could kind of take the mantle as being the world champion. Like Tessa was the world champion, but in my opinion, the hottest talent in that company at the time was Sammy Callahan. So they had people who can take the rightful mantle and it wouldn't question the legitimacy of the championship. Carl Anderson, like him or not, is one of the founding members of Bullet Club. He's one of the most decorated tag team champions in the world. That guy's a legitimate star and a legitimate talent for New Japan Pro Wrestling. So it's like putting the belt on him and having a guy like Hikuleu come up against him, and if Hikuleu were to beat him, would put him over as a legit talent and put him over as a legit star in that company. But if Carl Anderson doesn't show up, the elephant that's always going to be in the room is, okay, you have this new never open weight title, but like you didn't beat Carl Anderson. You know what I mean? And that's just going to be something that kind of looms over him and looms over the company. And it's just like, why, like, just address the elephant in the room and do business with WWE and work out some form of agreement that would allow Carl Anderson to defend at a later time or a later date, or even just be in a position where, Hikuleu can come to Raw. That would be dope. I think that would be dope if they could find a way to get a Bullet Club member over on Raw. I think that they have the opportunity to do something special with this, but that's all that I'm saying is I think that New Japan should find a way to do business with WWE in order to either retain the Never Openweight Championship or find a way in which the Never Openweight title can be featured on WWE programming.
You think they would try again after essentially being played in their faces, though, by
I
someone that
think
they are familiar with? It's not like it's not like
I I
really.
think they would. I think they would. And the reason why I say I think they would is because I think that number one, like I said in the other episode, I think that they're more willing to do business with WWE than AEW. One, two, a lot of their biggest stars are either with AEW or WWE, and three, they're trying to grow a US presence still. And I feel like if you have a talent that has my title, okay, that's cool, but you owe me one. And it's a lot easier to work out some form of deal in which I, as New Japan, benefit rather than just saying, F this, da 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 da. I'm not going to do it. And then you get nothing in return, right? Like, I just think that there's more for New Japan if they find a way to do business than if they were to just kind of like disregard Carl Anderson. Like, don't let your pride get in the way of a business move that can up your company. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for their company to be upped in value and upped in prestige and exposure, especially if they're trying to gain a US audience. That's all I got to say about that, though. Did you have anything else to say?
No, when you put it that way, that actually makes a lot more sense. Because at first I'm just like, well, why the hell would I want to go work with someone that just did me dirty and just,
Right.
blew my bookings? But when you put it that way, there is more to gain if they do try again. Because I don't believe that they're. I'm not saying New Japan's not doing good at the moment. It's just that they're not as interesting as they were in the last couple of years. Like not that many people are talking. There's not as much buzz. Considering, like you just said, their best talent did disperse and upgrade to working in America. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, you made some excellent points with that one.
But yeah, but speaking of the Judgment Day, uh, and the OC, their feud has been red hot, and obviously we saw Raw when we saw the phenomenal woman that is Rhea Ripley body slam Doc Gallows. So I kind of wanted to do something a little bit fun because it's very, very clear that the Judgment Day have the OC outnumbered. If you were to recruit a woman to the OC, who would you put on their team to even the odds?
The only person that came to mind that I thought would visually look good and then storyline makes sense is Shayna Baszler.
Mm.
And I said Shayna Baszler because Rhea Ripley was the one that put her out. You know, she took the strap off her, so it would make that more interesting to see them like come face to face with one another, especially for people that kept up with NXT, because you know the underlining feud that went on with them. But as visually, her being placed next to them, the same way Rhea Ripley legitimizes Judgment Day, you know, kind of like with China's presence, I feel like Shayna Baszler has that because she's a legitimate fighter. Like
Hmm.
Rhea Ripley has like the, you know, she's jacked as shit, she's strong as hell, you know, like, and she looks great. She has this, you know, very interesting look. Um she's very unique. That's the greatest thing about Rhea Ripley. She's one of a kind. She's unique. I feel like a person that would match Rhea Ripley with different qualities, but kind of gives me that same feeling is Shayna because she has a very unique look. She looks tough as shit. She is known for being tough as shit. She is a legitimate fighter. She could, you know, kick your ass and choke you out and break your fucking limbs and stuff like that and all your phalanges. Like, you know, she visually will
Flanges.
look really good next to them. She could be the one to bully around the guys, and you would believe it because she, again, is a legitimate fighter and she kind of has that ruggedness to her where, yeah, you know, she could ragdoll the females and she probably could do the same to the guys. I don't see her technically body slamming someone, but the same way we got a pop out of watching Rhea do what she does best, and that's, you know, utilize her strength to the best of her ability. Um, and she did in like a bully like behavior. I can see Shayna being back on her bully shit and choking guys out and embarrassing them because nothing's more embarrassing than they getting choked out by a female, bro. Like how you know
Very
what I
true.
mean? I can see her bitching them out, and I feel like that whole visual will look so epic. It would look so legit. It looks so epic. I was thinking to myself and going through all the females, and it's not that none of the females were bad. It's just that I don't
No.
think that I could see them paired next to AJ. That was my biggest thing. How does that person look standing next to AJ? Do I want to see a pretty face? Do I want to see a dull face? No, I want to see someone that is like a real fighter. Like, and Shane is like a real legit MMA fighter and technical wrestler.
You
I feel like
definitely
she
said a lot.
is the equal that would make a legitimate group. If we're looking for someone else that a female that could complete a faction that has that
Hmm.
legitimacy, Shayna is your girl. Like she is your girl. She is your equivalent. And again, it would make so for such an interesting storyline because again, it's not only a faction versus a faction, but there's individual beef between the girls because Shayna, you know, I know that she's been on a losing streak as far as getting a singles title, but
Yeah,
you know, run that shit back with the beef with Rhea. Have Shayna come and beat Rhea Ripley's ass every single time.
that's a fact.
Like, bitch, I did not forget you from my freaking reign, you know, and then kicking her off of like the brand that she was running. Like,
Right,
that would be interesting because you know what? While you have that whole thing going on with the factions, you didn't have to break the females off from the faction to have them revisit one another and have a 1v1,
right. I
title
I
or
agree
non
with that.
title. I think that's money.
I agree with that.
What's your pick?
However, my pick,
Mm,
Asuka. I would have Asuka join the OC. And the reason why I say that is this. I feel like after the whole damage control thing, as far as like them, like messing up, like breaking apart essentially Alexa, Asuka and Bianca. I feel like that was the last time we saw them together, and I feel like each individual, as far as Alexa and Asuka, need an individual refresh. And Asuka's crazy, and Asuka's dangerous, and I feel like one way to restore the perception of her being a dangerous woman is to align herself with people who are dangerous in the OC. I also feel like the common thread of the Japanese wrestling roots is something that can unite the OC. And I think that it's a nice little spin on something that they've, created. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like we're very much aware that the OC is based on the Bullet Club. Bullet Club doesn't have any women except for the female valet, the one that wears the bunny costume in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Oh,
But
Peter.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
have a signed shirt from her. I love her.
So,
Go ahead.
like they didn't have like a woman wrestler, and I feel like this is a great way to kind of distinguish the OC from the Bullet Club because they're doing things that Bullet Club wouldn't do traditionally, and so I think that this will be a great way to kind of set them apart, if you will, because yeah, like they just have a woman like Asuka, and I feel like a Asuka Rhea Ripley match will be a very very interesting entertainment match. It'll be a clash of styles, like this power versus kind of like this strong style type of feel. I think that that would be money as well. But I think that Shayna would be a good choice. But as far as where people are currently, it's like Shayna's on SmackDown. Like she's a SmackDown girl. I don't think that they would trade her, and Asuka's on Raw. So I think that it would be easier to integrate Asuka into Raw, into the OC than it would be Shayna into the OC just because of where she is brand wise.
Sorry to interject, but like, don't they normally do like a roster shakeup around this time of year? Like
They
October, November? There's usually
they
like a draft.
they do, and they've had rumors about it, but I haven't heard anything pertaining to it. So if they do a shakeup, I do see Shayna, but if they don't, I would say Asuka.
But I do love your answer with Asuka because I could see them bringing her back with like a darker, more cynical look than we're
Mm-hmm.
used to. You know, maybe it could be a nice, good time to rebrand her because we know her for all these crazy colors and stuff like that, which I love. That it looks fucking dope. Her entrance looks dope. I love her presentation, but I do miss the psychoticness that came with NXT Asuka, and we haven't seen her in a long time. Um, because ever since the booking with Charlotte,
Yeah.
it kind of just ruined her momentum and no one really took her as a threat anymore. So what I like about that is a lot of people's biggest complaints that is a um main roster or casual watcher of WWE's, they tend to say, "Oh, well, I can't connect with Asuka because she can't speak English. All I get out of her is that she yells out Japanese and she acts crazy and she acts goofy and stuff like that." And she's like, "Well, if she's working in a faction, not saying that they need to speak for her because I want her to still speak in Japanese. I still
Mm-hmm.
want her to speak for herself. But what they don't understand, because either they're too dense to put in the effort or they're actually genuinely trying to understand a Japanese wrestler, but they just can't seem to get it because they're so used to having someone that could speak clear English. Well, you're gonna have the faction there that is gonna still be otherwising, representing, and speaking as well. So it's gonna have like that nice balance there, and you'll understand what her role is and what she's made of, and you can still present her similarly to how she was presented in NXT, with her being like a serious threat and being the female that was really running NXT at her time. But
Mm-hmm.
that gives her an opportunity to be repackaged because we haven't really seen her really um we haven't really seen much of a character development with Asuka beyond the Kabuki Warriors when she was paired with Kyrie, and then they separated her, and she kind of more or less went back to being goofy and silly,
Yeah.
which I don't mind. But Asuka is more than that. Like the accolades that this girl has back in Japan, even
Mm-hmm.
before coming to NXT, is crazy, and people don't understand how legitimate Asuka is. And I would love to see her look and feel like it.
Mm.
So I might even traded my answer as much as I stand Shayna and I'm waiting for my girl's moment.
Mm-hmm.
I might just trade it in for your answer, Jordan.
I win.
Because I think that long term, that would be great. Because Shayna could still just do what she wants to do alone and survive by herself. But Asuka could definitely use the rub in this moment in time. And it's
Very
something
true.
where she wouldn't necessarily need a title belt to be one of the most fascinating designations or attractions on the show, which
Right.
I would love for her. Yeah.
I 100% agree with that. I don't think there needs to be anything else to be said pertaining to that. But um, speaking of women's wrestlers, after weeks of speculation, The Rock's daughter, Ava Raine, has made her WWE NXT television debut as a member of the Schism. With her debut on NXT TV, she becomes WWE's first ever fourth generational professional wrestler. So, what did you see her debut, and what were her impressions of her and her character?
I did not watch the actual episode, but I did go ahead and watch the whole Schism presentation, and I did watch her promo because I wanted to understand what is Schism, why did they choose that name, and I'm a little bit slow, so I actually went out of my way to go Google it just so I could understand why did they go with that name because it that to me doesn't roll off the tongue very well.
Right.
Schism. It just doesn't strike me as like a catchy name. So then I had to
Right.
look it up, and it said literally a split or division between strongly opposed sections or parties caused by differences in opinion or belief, which went perfectly well with their promo. It actually
Right.
was a decent promo. You know, I like how they kind of turned the camera onto the fans, especially the internet marks, you know, because we're very opinionated. And I think that was actually the perfect way to present The Rock's daughter because she definitely was going to have it. Okay, sorry. Um, I think it was the perfect way to present The Rock's daughter because of the fact that, like, with her having the last name that she has, and she looks like a spitting image of her father while she's young. You know what I mean?
Right.
Uh, yeah, it's so, and then I know people are going to definitely jump on her for, you know, the way she looks, the way she talks, you know, the character she wants to be. I love how she is placed in a group that both addresses that and just shuts everything the fuck down, saying
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, we're put together because we're kind of just sick of all of you guys. It's like a better version of what they try to do in the main roster, Retribution, I believe.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
that the name of that horrible?
Yeah.
It's like
Retribution.
a
Yeah.
better version. It's like what they were attempting to do with them, but presented a little bit better. Yeah, I know that the budget between like the mask and stuff looked pretty cheap and looked very Party City esque, but I liked their purpose. I enjoyed the promo, and it was just a nice way to really just set up Simone Johnson, aka Ava Raine, because I think she really wanted to hammer it in that hey, I know that y'all know that I'm the Rock's daughter. Like y'all know my daddy, but we not thinking about my daddy every time I'm on screen right now. I'm a different
Right.
person. I am a separate entity. Leave that shit in the past because I am not Natty and I'm not Charlotte. I'm not here to pay tribute. I'm not here to pay homage. I'm not. He did his damn thing. This
Right.
is my time. This is my time, and this is me. So get used to Ava. All right, let's drop the Johnson completely. Y'all get used to Ava. Like I know you guys are gonna come at me because of what you know, but you guys don't know me yet. And I want y'all
Mm.
to know me. Know
Right.
me now. Get to know me now. Pay
Right.
attention. That's what I got out of that promo. And I loved her confidence. You know, she took off that mask and she had this bad bitch energy to her. I was like, oh, okay, I could get with this.
Right.
I could get with this. You know? I love the way she conducted herself. The promo, honestly, was probably 20 seconds off of her end, but she got her point across. She most definitely got her point across
Right.
because all she basically said is that I'm looking, I'm reading, and we not about to do this today because I am not the one nor the two.
Right.
So just because you guys were pulling what you were pulling, that's why this whole faction is made.
Right.
Like it was great. It was great. I loved it. I'm interested. I know a lot of people are not going to like her off rip just because they're gonna choose not to for some reason. That's just a natural thing in the wrestling community that you gotta either be as good as you know, as either as whatever lineage that you came from. But I love her approach. I think it's very bold. I think it's very brave of her. Because
Mm-hmm.
the easy route would be just to be an homage act.
Very true.
It's very hard nowadays in wrestling to come up with a unique character because there's so many characters. At some point, all fans like to do is to compare something to something else. You see a blonde, you want to compare that to Trish or to like a Tori or like Alexa or something like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? You see a mythical character being attempted and it's like, "Oh, they're trying to be the Undertaker." You know what I mean? It's so
Mhm.
hard to be unique. So, the fact that she has the option that no one else has, which is just to be a tribute and she's choosing to be her own person, I think is awesome. I love it. And I automatically love her.
For that.
So, that's just my whole take on her. She's a badass bitch. What do you think, Jordan?
So I agree with you. I think the only issue I had was with the name because there is an artist named Ava Raine currently out. She's a black woman.
Really?
Yeah. Like one of my
I'm
bros,
gonna look
my
this up.
my someone who's like my older brother to me. His name is Nick. He put me onto it. But other than the fact that she has somebody else's name, and I don't think it's intentional, but the fact that like her name kind of came after the artist established her name is kind of fishy. Outside of that, though, I think that it is very, very admirable to to it's very, very admirable that she wants to establish kind of an identity on her own because The Rock is easily one of, if not the biggest draw ever in the history of pro wrestling, probably right next to Hulk Hogan or Stone Cold. And so the fact that she doesn't want to follow in her father's footsteps and she wants to do something on her own is very, very admirable of her. I think that she, even with the opening promo, the cadence was different, the tone was different. You can tell that she just in no way, shape, or form was trying to be like The Rock. She was trying to be her own woman. And I think that it was worth the wait. You know what I mean? Because I think she was signed to the Performance Center for years now. And I think that they've just been kind of taking their time just trying to figure out what's her niche, what's her role, where she can fit. And I think that this is a great way to your mic is muted.
Sorry. She also has been injured. I forgot to
Yeah,
add that in.
she was injured.
Yeah, in the performance center. Yeah.
Totally forgot about that. But yeah, I think that the fact that she's kind of doing something new and doing something different is very, very admirable of her. Once again, this was just like the first week, so I can only say but so much. I can just tell you that the tone was different, the cadence was different. This was not giving baby female Rock. This is giving I'm Ava. Like my I'm Ava Raine. This is my character name. This is who I am. And you're not going to get, what you think you're going to get. And I think that that's very, very admirable of her. And actually, ironically, very much something that her father would do. Her father was her father is the type of person who kind of separated himself from the pack. The Rock is very, very different from Soul Man Rocky Johnson. And so I think that we're kind of seeing that lineage kind of expand in a different way with her kind of reinvigoration of her character. And so I'm very, very excited to see what comes of this. But moving on, speaking of NXT, um, former creative head Triple H has decided to put an end to a 13-year premium live event. As reported by WrestleVotes, WWE has ruled that Hell in a Cell will be considered a defunct show moving forward. Do you believe that this was the right move? And what would you like to see in replacement for a show see as a replacement show for Hell in a Cell?
Well, it does make me kind of upset because I actually do enjoy Hell in the Cell. A lot of people don't like it because they feel like it's pretty gimmicky and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, Halloween, like
Yeah.
let's put Hell in the Cell because the word Hell in it, you know. But I actually enjoyed it. But what I disliked is just the bookings and some of the matches over the past couple of years. Not all of them. There has been some great matches. Of course, all Sasha's matches were bomb. The the building with Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso, that was wonderful. Was it Jay or Jimmy? I forgot. Um, they had a wonderful
It was Jay.
match
It was
in
definitely Jay,
Hell
I
in the
think.
Cell. Yes, yes. They had a fantastic match, but there has been some times where the Hell in Cell was not used properly. I.e., Drew McIntyre during his title reign had a very forgettable match. I think it was against Randy Orton, if I'm not mistaken.
I
I
think
don't know.
so.
I feel like the issue with me in the cage matches is that they're either really good or they're really bad, and it's because they're not properly utilizing the cage like the
Mm-hmm.
way that they were back in the day. And I understand that they probably have like health and safety reasons, but I feel like they should personally keep it. But if they are going to get rid of it, I don't know why, but I always wondered like why did they get rid of Inferno matches? Like, was that something that was just, designated for just for Kane? I feel like if you're gonna have a mythical character come back at this point, can we at least try to get an Inferno match? I'm not saying every person needs to go through an Inferno, but it'd be really cool if they had like a main event match that had at least one Inferno match. And I know it's dangerous, and that's probably why they stopped doing it, but it's something that I've been missing since I was a kid. And they executed it well every single time with no issues that I know about.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to go with a gimmick again, since you already were having Hell in a Cell for the simple fact that it's October, I mean, Inferno match would be kind of fun.
Right.
Maybe that's just me being a child.
No,
But
you
that's
being
the
a
first
child.
thing that came to my mind as I listened to this question. I was just like, God damn it, I missed this. I missed the recklessness that came with an Inferno match. But you also need the right person, the right character, and the right reason to actually light a ring up on fire and have two grown men or females. Oh, wait, that could be a cool precedent.
A
Two
woman's
females in an
Inferno
Inferno
match?
Yes.
Ooh.
I
Who
don't
would
know
you
who
put in the
you
women's
place in
Inferno
there
match?
first, but that would. What I gotta think about that. An Inferno match. The only person that would have made sense, like, if you actually wanted to had made Alexa Bliss's character at all seem scary or terrifying, she would have actually worked in her mythical role because that match kind of started with like people like Kane and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had to go with someone now, I would like to throw a veteran in there, obviously, because I don't want no one to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, hmm, hmm. Well, I'm thinking if you could throw in a name, that's fine. But and who could handle an Inferno match? Candice LeRae. She's reckless enough to
Rhea
handle an
Ripley.
Inferno match.
Rhea Ripley should be in an
Rhea
Inferno
Ripley
match.
too. Actually, the both of them. Put the both of them because Candice is crazy as hell and she'll do just about anything. She'll take any bump possible.
That's a fact.
But I would love to see that set up around Rhea Ripley since she kind of
and it would make sense.
like
Keep going. My bad.
No. You go ahead. It's fine.
I was just gonna say it would make sense surrounding like her Judgment Day gimmick that she would be surrounded with fire. Like it just fits her. You know what I'm saying? But what were you gonna say? Because I didn't want to cut you off.
No, it's fine. It's just that I was just thinking to myself, with Rhea Ripley's character, she just kind of have like this dominatrix demonic look to her, which is fucking awesome. It'd be really interesting if they really want to drag this out and build more layers to her character and whatever feud she's having with a female separately, while they're having like an actual faction feud going on. If they want to have like a B or a C plot going on with the females, I would love if it would lead up and end in an Inferno match, like with Rhea Ripley going over, and then it could be like a stipulation match that would be associated with her and her name and her character,
right?
Which is a very interesting accolade. Like you don't have to have all like titles and stuff underneath your name or Rumble Rose. No, not Rumble Roses. Royal Rumble matches. I need a whole video game, y'all.
Literally a whole ass video game.
I did. I know. I need to stop playing games. But no, I think it's interesting because you don't always need to have titles underneath your name to have like accolades or important precedents in wrestling. And I feel like it'd be really interesting for Rhea to add that onto her resume with being associated with kind of revamping an old match that didn't really last very long. I'm not sure when they put out the Inferno matches. I don't remember it lasting longer than a couple years. But for her to be responsible to bring that back, that would look excellent on her resume. But what do you think? What match would you bring back?
I mean, I would, as far because it was the show. It was like a show that I would bring back. If it was a show that I was gonna bring back, it would probably be Vengeance as opposed to Hell in a Cell. I would see Vengeance as well. Then again, I think that they already have Vengeance for NXT. I'd probably to replace Hell in a Cell, since it was like a fall pay-per-view, I would say Unforgiven. I know that you talked about bringing back Unforgiven as like a 2022 pay-per-view like last episode, but I would bring back Unforgiven to replace Hell in a Cell just because it is less gimmicky and it is the name of it gives like the feel that it could host a Hell in a Cell match or other matches. We've seen TLC matches, obviously the one with Edge and Cena.
Yes.
We've seen, steel cage matches, all different types of matches at Unforgiven. I think that Unforgiven will play a good host to Hell in a Cell. As far as them taking away the Hell in a Cell show, I think that this is long overdue. Angie said it in the group chat, and I'm going to bring this point to the show, which is that it should be used as a feud ender. Like, a Hell in a Cell match should end a feud. It shouldn't just be necessarily like a pay-per-view, because it feels very like, oh, you know what's going to happen next. But it's like, there were times where a Hell in a Cell match would happen at a SummerSlam, where a Hell in a Cell match would happen at a Survivor Series, where a Hell in a Cell match would happen at Armageddon. And it gave a
Wasn't
much
solid.
more serious implications to it, because it wasn't attached necessarily to a gimmicky pay-per-view. You know what I'm saying? So I think that a Hell in a Cell match should only take place at the end of a feud. And I feel like them taking away the show kind of allows for a lot more creative possibilities and booking decisions, if you will, because now a Hell in a Cell match could happen at any show. It could happen on a Raw or a SmackDown. It could happen on a Big Four pay-per-view. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was a Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania, and it was fire.
Oh yeah, that was the thing.
With
Yeah, I
with with
forgot they
Shawn.
used to do that. They used to have like more steel cages and ladder matches and Hell in the Cell matches. We used to even get table matches during the week.
Yeah.
I wonder
But
what
like
else
all of it,
stopped.
got like kind of grouped into these. Like, now the only time you'll see a tables or a ladders match is like either like an NXT special or Extreme Rules, and if you see a Hell in a Cell match, it'll only be at Hell in a Cell. But it's like, now you may get a Hell in a Cell at SummerSlam. You may get a TLC match at, Armageddon or something like that. I don't know, but I think this is the best move, because it allows them for so much more
What if they
creative,
had an
cool
all
stuff.
stipulation pay per view, like where every single match is like a like it could be like one's a table match, one's a ladder match, one's a Hell in the Cell match, one's a steel cage match. I mean, that's a lot of building on their
It's
end,
a lot of
but
building,
that'd be
but
pretty cool if they had a.
it would it would be. But I think that was like the idea of like Extreme Rules. But I feel like they realized that they could only do so much because they're a PG product, so they have to space their extreme stipulations rules matches out a little bit. You know what I mean? So
I
that's all I have
guess.
to.
To me, I could do without Extreme Rules,
Yeah,
to be honest.
yeah,
Not that they did a bad job this year, but to me, I feel like that's the one I would have thrown away before Hell in the Cell. But Angie did make a good point. I do understand that Hell in the Cell was more interesting when it just miraculously happened, you
yeah.
know. Um, so I get it. But yeah, I guess Unforgiven or Vengeance would be like a nice for the month of October or November. Yeah, I would definitely had put Unforgiven or Vengeance. I know the question was which pay per view. My brain just went straight to the match because I thought Hell in the Cell and like the how is a cage structure match. I'm like, well, instead of a cage, have we never had a match on fire again? But no, I totally get where you're going with the whole vengeance thing. That'd be great. There's no other pay per view I think I would actually bring back.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I can't really think of anything else. Well, anyways, moving on.
That concludes the show. So, but that's the last topic. So that concludes the show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Once again, join our Discord. Follow us on all our social handles, wherever you are. Like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you guys next week. Blah, 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 blah.